Listen, when you're working with the public, you get some weird people who walk through those doors. Let me tell you. The other day I was working, and it was really late, and I was just really uncomfortable with the whole situation. This guy comes in, and he's like hunched over, and he's got this crazy hunchback, and he's like, he's breathing heavy and talking like that the whole time he's making a sub, and he's got on this like crazy ridiculous like yellow raincoat / trench coat, but it's like all ripped up. So he looks ridiculous, and he's acting super crazy. But then he's like, okay, I want that sub. And then he's like, well, I want bacon on it. And I'm like, okay, well, bacon costs extra. And he said, oh, well, you don't have to charge me, do ya? And I'm like, yes, I do have to charge you. It's not free. That's why it costs extra money. He's like, oh, well, that's effing dumb. And I'm like, I'm sorry, do you want the bacon or do you not want the bacon? It's going to cost extra regardless. She's like, I want double bacon. And I'm like, that's double the price then. That's double extra. He's like, rah! He literally he literally made that sound and threw his hands into there, and he's like, whatever, I'll just pay the extra money. So we get to the end, and I ring him up and I tell him his total, and he's like, are you sure you have to charge me? And he stares at me like this, and I'm like, yes. And it was just so freaking weird, and it was a lot weirder in person, I promise, but it was freaky. And then, some other day, this lady comes in, and it's kind of weird, but whatever. She tells me, like, the most ridiculous story I've ever heard. So I'm making her sub, and she wants some tomatoes on there. So I put some tomatoes on, and she's like, wait! And I'm like, mid-tomato, and I'm like, yes? And she said, I can't have those tomatoes. I'm allergic to tomatoes that aren't bright red. Excuse me? You're allergic to tomatoes that aren't bright red? She said that because the tomatoes, they were like, I don't know why they weren't bright red, but they were like slightly pinkish. They were perfectly healthy to eat. Perfectly fine. But she said that color, it upsets her skin and it makes her like break out in hives and like all this other stuff. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, you know that color isn't something you can be allergic to, right? I obviously didn't say that because she was just being ridiculous, but I'm just thinking that in my head the whole time. I'm like, who are these people? Who are these people that you meet when you decide to get a job in fast food? That's what I don't understand. And then, this other thing comes in. This lady comes in, and this was just yesterday. She comes in, and she's wearing like this crazy big blue hat and this frilly poofy blue dress. And she's like, who owns the building next door? Because it's like it's an empty building, because there was a place that was there and then they ran out of business. I don't know. And I'm like, I have no idea. And she's like, I need that number. I want to purchase it. And I'm like, I have no idea what their number is. And she walks out and I'm working with this guy. He's like, did Great Gatsby just walk in? It was so funny in person because she looked like the Great Gatsby movie.